G'day everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight I'm going to be working a bit more on Mr. Frost Giant here. This is the Frost Giant from the Epic Encounters box, and I started him a couple of days ago. Did a metallic coat on the axe and used some wildwood over the zenithal highlight on the haft. And tonight I'm going to get started on his skin. Now, if you watched the last video, you'll know that I said, oh, the blue skin's a little bit too obvious, a bit too in your face, not really my thing. I stand by that with the bright blue, but I'm going to try something a little bit different tonight, and I'm going to give a light blue or a really pale blue skin a go. Not like outright blue, more like skin that's obviously been exposed to cold for a long time, and we'll see how that goes. Having said that though, I haven't tried this before. This is my first time trying a really pale blue skin. I did something kind of similar with a Nurgle Blood Bowl team, but I kind of went down more of a warm colour palette for that and then went over it with a blue wash. It didn't turn out as well as I'd like. This time I'm starting with the blues underneath, and it kind of helps that I've got the Grace here and the Mechanicus Standard Grey as my primer. So yeah, now before I do his skin, I'm going to try the Steel Grey and the Vallejo series paints and just sort of see how it looks underneath on the wet palette. Kind of see how it comes up. Because let's just see how it comes out, because if it looks alright on the wet palette, then I'll be okay and I'm happy to use it. But even before I put it on him, I'm going to put it on his base. So I'll just put a little bit onto my wet palette there, thin it out a tiny bit with some water. These Vallejo paints, I don't know if it's all the Vallejo paints straight out of the bottle, if you bought them straight up, but these ones are already quite thin. It's not a bad blue. I think it's probably a little bit more bold than I would like, but that's not going to be his finished skin tone, so I'm happy to start somewhere that I can cover up. Like the foot. Let's see how his foot looks once I get a little bit of blue on it. You can sort of see I'm getting right up in the corners here. Possibly not as thorough as if I could do it in sub-assemblies. If this was a sort of model, let's say it was like a Games Workshop Giant. I haven't actually painted one of those, but knowing Games Workshop, it would come in many pieces, and you know, possibly the cloak at the top of his body would be a separate piece to his head and shoulders, in a way that you could put it together after it had been painted. So it makes painting models so much easier when you can do them in sub-assemblies. Having said that though, I am famously impatient, and the number of times I could have done something in some assemblies, but I really wanted to use it in a game first, and so I just went straight ahead and glued it all together and then had to paint it afterwards. Probably one of the times I tried to fix that cycle was when I tried to paint my Riptide and game with it at the same time. My Riptide is a mech suit for the Tau armies from Warhammer 40k, and because I wanted to get right up under the armpits and get in there and make sure all the panels were nice and evenly coated, I magnetized his arms to his body with rather large magnets. Funnily enough though, it meant that his arms wouldn't stay up in a single position. They kept flopping down. So in the end, I ended up 2 seconds. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Discord. I get the message. Yeah. In the end, I ended up getting a small piece of clear strut from the Tau drones bases. One of those clear little perspex struts, and I drilled a hole in the side of his body, which I intended to fill later, and stuck the strut out the side to support his arm so it wouldn't fall down. And it was in such a place that no one ever really commented it. It was there for probably about a year, and no one noticed. Also made packing it up and transporting it really easy. Magnetizing models is a really good idea if you want to transport them without having to worry about long, slender things snapping off or shearing off or whatever. Probably a good example of this is Necron models. I haven't built any of the new stuff, new as of 2021, but I know the older, like the Triarch Stalker, I think it's called. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Triarch Stalker. I magnetized that into 4 pieces so that it wasn't such a sort of tall, slender looking thing sticking out of a box that other models could collide with or whatever if I couldn't secure them properly, or if someone threw something in there, it wasn't going to crush it because it was on these spindly legs. It broke down into the saddle, I guess you'd call it, and the legs, and it laid nice and flat. Okay, so this little bit of paint that I put out on the wet palette has actually gone a decent distance. It's deceptive because usually you're painting small little models like this, and you put a bit of paint on the wet palette and oh, actually that's a little bit too much, or oh, maybe not quite enough. But on a model this big, it chews through it relatively quickly, and yeah, it goes a long way. I don't think I'll do 2 coats of this. I'll probably just do the 1 coat, and then I'm gonna go over it with, and once again this is an experiment because I haven't used these before, I'm gonna go over it with the blue wash from Vallejo, and then I'm gonna see how highlighting it with the glacial blue goes. If I decide to get really fancy, I might do some really fine edge highlights with some dead white, just to give it that little bit of glare, like when the sun hits snow, it gives it that sort of that ping. But until then, we'll just keep going with the skin and yeah, see how the whole body looks after I finish. It's gonna take a while. I know probably some of you right now are yelling at the camera and going, Sundered, why the hell aren't you using a airbrush? Well, I have a very good reason for that. I have an airbrush, I have a compressor. I do not have fine motor control with it. I cannot use it as effectively as I would like. If I was Zenithal highlighting this bad boy, yeah, I'd be all over that. I can do something like that with it, no worries. But when it comes down to just painting his skin in these little areas and not getting paint on other things, not so much. And I know that, like I was saying yesterday, like I said in the last video, I could touch it up, I could go over it, but the Zenithal highlight that I've done, I really sort of want to keep that in good condition where I can, for when I use a contrast paint or a wash to do some colouring in. On such a large canvas as his leg is, this blue doesn't look as bold as I was worried it would look. I was worried that it would look very blue. Don't be confused, it is called steel grey, but it's a blue. think if this goes well, this will be my go-to for blue skin. Another really good thing about painting a miniature this big, a bigature, is that by the time I get to his head, his feet will be dry. And I can start going over with the other colours straight away. I do like how his outfit is really just a bit of a hodgepodge of different pieces. He's you know, he's got an axe down here. He's got what looks like a breastplate. There's clearly a sword there. There's swords sticking out of him. These are wolf pelts that he's got around his ankles. You know, the deer hanging off his belt. There's a mace there. Shields for buckles and a brooch, which is probably a giant shield as well. Yeah, and the axe sticking out of his torso. I'm not sure whether that's meant to have been there from the battle that is going on when you're playing with him on the table, or whether that's a pre-existing injury. I guess you can decide that for yourself if you end up getting one of these. But yeah, that's some nice touches. I don't know what this skull here is meant to be. And he's got a couple of heads on his belt as well, a couple of little skulls there. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous looking model. And sometimes it's nice to do something different. Like I said, I haven't painted anything this big before. But then what I usually paint are Blood Bowl teams or single miniatures. Especially in the last sort of year and a half. I sort of took a little bit of a break from painting and from wargaming for a few months, a couple of years ago, and then when I got back into it, my painting jumped up a decent level. I was pretty average before that, and oddly enough, the one thing that got me to the next level was the release of contrast paints. So I have a rather big soft spot for contrast paints. You will hear me mention them a lot. I think they're a really good versatile tool, not necessarily for what they are advertised to do, but they're really cool as a wash. They're really cool for a base layer in some situations. They're good to illustrate on models where shadows lie, and this is what I mean when I say it's a good base layer. If I was to use a contrast paint, say I'd gone over this in is it Corax White, the white primer, and then I was using a really pale blue sort of contrast paint or a bluey grey contrast paint to do his skin, it illustrates better than you can see with the naked eye sometimes, or maybe from an angle that you wouldn't necessarily look at, where the dips are, where the little shallow parts are in the model on his muscles here, for example. And then when you come back over with your other colours, a bit like you get from the Zenithal highlight, you can see a bit more obviously where you want to put your highlights, where you want to put your shading, those sorts of things. Alright, his hands are a bit tricky. I've got a little bit on the haft of the axe there, but that's alright. My fault for doing the axe first. So, once again, apologies if the model sort of strays out of shot. Wet pallets over there, and I adjusted the camera today. I've set it up in a slightly different position. Hopefully it's nice and stable. With my very hillbilly little rig. But yeah, I think it's a better position. It was a bit lower down before, a bit closer to my shoulder, and I felt like I was constantly trying to keep this guy in frame, and as a byproduct of that, I was overcompensating and pushing him out of frame the other direction. Now, I was going to talk about what I was planning to do with this guy. I am planning to use the encounter that comes in the book. I haven't read it yet. There is a little booklet that comes with this, and a map. But even outside of that, I'm thinking I will use him for some other adventures. It seems a shame to paint him up and everything and only use him once. So yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what other sort of adventures I'd use him on. My campaign right now for D&D is very fantasy-esque, as you'd imagine a D&D campaign would be. Very traditional sort of fantasy elements. Dragons, gold, werewolves, that sort of thing. And very traditional D&D elements like messing with your players while you cackle in the background. But after going to all this effort for the big fella, I feel like he should be a returning character. It's only fair. Just like to say thank you to anyone who's joining me on this video today. I don't do tutorials as such. I don't do short videos of me showing you exactly how to paint. And I'm by no means an amazing painter. I get by at the most. My videos are very much just about sitting, chilling out, talking to you guys, and I'd love to hear what you think in the chat, whether it's about painting big models or blue skin, whether you've got any tips and tricks, whether you've painted this model before. I'd love to hear how you painted it. Or go ahead and find me on Instagram. Just look up Sundered Psyche, and yeah, if you've got some models that you'd like to sort of show me, yeah, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see them. If you do enjoy this sort of content, and you do like just sort of chilling out and listening to me talk and seeing my model as it sort of comes together, please hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this video as it sort of progresses, more of this model, sorry, as it progresses, please hit the subscribe button. And yeah, every time I post a new video of me painting him, that'll pop up. I'm gonna try and make a fairly regular schedule of this. The YouTube algorithm likes regular scheduling, and so I'm going to try and make it at least a weekly post with a progress video of this guy. My last video was only about half an hour long, but these will just sort of be as long as they need to be for me to gain progress on this. Given the size of the model, progress is going to be slow going. It's going to take a little while. If I do any highlights on this guy with the white, the dead white, I'd probably run him along his scars. He's got a lot of slashes and gashes and scars and stuff on his arms. I don't think I'd make any of them fresh scars. I don't think I'll have any weeping blood. But I will make some of the scars white lines, I think. I think that'd look pretty cool. Now, is that skin under there, or is that part of the furs? I'm going to say that's leather and furs, because it looks a little bit too high in the strata of things to be skin. It's good. He's looking good though. I think the rest of the colours on this guy are going to be sort of whites and browns. Probably not too many bright colours. I imagine he has got a lot of his stuff salvaged from fights that he survived. So I don't think he would have many bright colours. There'll be a lot of dingy stuff, a lot of dirty cloaks and, like I say, skins and animal skins that he's just sort of strapped to his body for protection. Not that he really needs it. I mean, you look at this guy, he's a hulking mass of muscle. He's got an axe sticking out of him and it hasn't even slowed him down. I don't think he needs much armor. I think what he's wearing is more a trophy collection than armor. He's wearing these things to say, check out what I can do. Especially the heads. Now, they are definitely trophies. That's just showing off. That's what that is. Yeah, it's coming together. We'll have to touch up these ropes. We'll have to touch up the skulls, but I'll probably go over those with Wraithbone, and then run a quick shade over the top of them and maybe a really quick highlight. Nothing too fancy. That's looking pretty good. I think I've caught almost all the areas. As the paint's dried, it's definitely taken on a bit more of a darker tone, and I think it's mellowed out a little bit. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that's turning out. And like I said, I know that this isn't going to stay this blue, and that makes me feel better, because if I was just leaving it straight up as this level of colour, I would probably not have done it. Now we're going to get up in his face, all up in his grill here. I am going to paint over his eyes, because I will come back and touch those up later. I have a habit of cheating with eyes. I do not do pupils. All of my eyes are crazy magical glowing eyes. Or not necessarily glowing, but they're solid colour eyes. If I'm doing evil things, they're usually red. If I'm doing nice things, they might be green or blue. Unless they're skaven, they're also green when they're skaven. And if they're really, really small, I don't bother at all. No one's going to notice them that small, and I do not paint for competition purposes. So I don't need to be that fiddly. It's got a bit of neck showing here. We'll try and fill that in. Oh, it's probably a little bit much. A little bit too much paint there. It's not bad. And what about his other side? What's he got over here? A little bit of ear. Little tiny bit of neck. Cool. Alright, that's the base layer for his skin done, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I've missed anything. Although I'm sure I did. I always miss something. As far as I can tell... Oh, no, see? See, I knew it. right up under his little jacket there. Now, like I said, I wasn't going to go too deep on these, but that is low enough down, and he is tall enough that it is somewhat visible. There we go. Did get a little bit on his belt. That's alright. Alright, rinse that off, and if I'm happy with how dry it is on the bottom there, we'll switch over to the wash. Was it a wash? Yeah, the blue wash. Another one that I haven't used before, but we'll see how it turns out. Jump up a brush size. Yeah, his legs are still drying, as is his chest, and putting on a wash is definitely a lot quicker than putting on any other colours. So we'll give it a second to try and dry, and I'll hit resume when I'm confident that we can get cracking on the wash. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. His skin's not fully dry yet, but we'll start on the feet anyway. Like I said, a bit of a test on the swatch over here. Now there's no raised areas, there's no detail on that little swatch there, but give it a little bit of a test. Now, I do not have anywhere to put washes because I lost my thingy thing. You know the thingy thing, the stuff, the thing with the stuff. That'll do nicely. It's the one thing that the red grass palette has over the Army Painter wet palette. It comes with little wash dimples. Dimples? Divots. Little wash spots. Little dips you can put your washes in. Which isn't a problem if you use primarily Citadel paints because of the pots. In my opinion, washes should come in pots, paints should come in dropper bottles. End of story. I don't like washes in dropper bottles, and you've got to find something to take it out of, and it just becomes a hassle. But if you have a little tray or something, you're all good. Okay, so I am going to pretty much go over his whole foot. Oh yeah, I skipped a step. I was going to do it on the little swatch. Oh, I forgot. That's alright. I can always repaint his foot. Yeah, that's looking alright. I'm okay with that. It's really showing up all the tendons and stuff on his toes, all those little details. The downside to this is, and this is my slackness with those mold lines coming back, it'll show up the mold lines too. But I'm not too fussed. Like I said in my last video, my party, group adventurers are just looking to slay this monster. I'm sure they'll appreciate a bit of a nice paint job and whatnot, but ultimately, yeah, they're going to kill it. Look at that. See, even that's a nice touch. There's a few scars on his feet, and they didn't even really show up as a detail to me until I put the wash on it, which, like I say, is handy because now, when I go over the top of it with some highlighting, I'll know that they're there. And if I hadn't done that, I would have missed them, might not have noticed for a while, and I would have been disappointed when I ultimately did see that they were there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And as it dries down here, now that the shine is getting taken away as it dries up, it's sort of giving this sort of, matte finish as you'd expect, but I can see better how it's interacting with the details. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks really good. It's probably a little bit wet there still. Yeah, I might just leave that spot for the moment. Onto his other hand. It's probably a little bit much. There we go. Yeah, looking good. Now, if you guys have any tips for me, and you think that, oh, you know what, Sundered, you'd benefit from this technique, or maybe you think that there's a particular paint that would work well with this kind of thing, let me know. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Keep it civil in the comments between each other, please. We want these chats to be a welcoming place between. We're all fellow artists, so to speak. We all enjoy the same thing, so yeah. And opinions are just opinions, you know. That's just like your opinion, man. But hearing other people's opinions is very important, especially when it comes to development as an artist in any shape or form. Writer, painter, sculptor, anything that makes you think outside of your normal thought patterns and consider other options, whether you take that path or not. It's a good thing to do. Always listen. Alright, I just gotta let some of that paint dry before I can finish off the wash. I'm just gotta do his abs because he's ripped, and up under his armpit there, the spot that I almost missed last time. And then that's complete. Now he's not looking too pretty right now. You know, the wash is a little bit patchy because I've gone over his whole body with it. But what we'll do next is a really light coat of the steel grey again. And probably just as an example, because his feet are dry, I can probably get a little bit of this and just, if it's thin enough, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Just go over some of the raised areas on his feet. Okay, so what I'm going to do, since that's still drying, is I'm going to fold up a tissue and try for a little bit of dry brushing on this axe. I wasn't going to do it just yet, but we've got some time, wait for things to dry, and yeah, we'll just go right ahead and see how well we can advance the look on his axe. It's a pretty straightforward technique, dry brushing, if you've never done it before. It's pretty easy to learn. The hardest thing I found when I was starting out was making sure that you don't have too much on your brush and going slow. You know, truly do, when someone says build it up in layers, especially on a really sort of big thing like this, it's very easy to go too fast too soon. Do build it up in layers. Sometimes I might wait for it to really wear down so I can only get the tips. You're basically leaving very small particles of paint right on the tops where the brush is just hitting. So sometimes I might try and get it right down to the finest kind of highlights. But this time round, I'm not getting it completely dry on the brush first, so to speak. I'm leaving a little bit on there, and then I'm coming in off this edge where he'd be striking. I'm dumping most of my paint along there, and then I'm going across these top bits to sort of highlight where the hammer or chisel or whatever may have left these impressions. So if I just go in there where the thing is and then come back, and it looks sort of like he's taken a beating on his axe there. Dump a little bit of that down there, and then yeah, there we go. Spread the rest out like that. Now I don't know how well this is going to come up on the camera, given that light acts in weird ways. It might not look great. It might not look any different at all, but I assure you it is looking different. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can really see much of the effect, but hopefully you can get a little bit of an idea as the light sort of moves around as I turn the model. That's not bad. That's not too bad. I'm okay with that. Hang on, let's just dull the light down a bit, going dark. A little bit less glare. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that for now. Rinse off my dry brush. Important to note that if you clean your dry brush, like I do when I've used a metallic, wait for it to dry before you try and dry brush again, because otherwise it doesn't work as well. Have made that mistake before. How's his chest looking? Still a little bit damp. That's alright. It's okay. He's getting there. What else can we do in the meantime? Well, we could actually dry brush the haft of the axe and make a little bit of progress there. What do we reckon? Sound good? Sounds good to me. Now, what kind of colour should we go for? I think maybe Carrick Stone. I've got Carrick Stone here. The Citadel pot's quite easy to dry brush out of. You don't have to place out some paint or anything first. You can just dip. Good to know they're good for certain things. Don't like to be mean. I actually really like Citadel pots. I know a lot of people don't like them. It's not trendy to like Citadel pots. But I don't mind them. I think they get a bad rap because they do tend to harvest the glue, the paint, as I like to call it. They harvest it and they bunch it up and they store it in that little crease around the top. And you know, you're right, you shouldn't have to clean that out on every single one. But you know, like this Carrick Stone I've had for probably about 1.5 2 years. I don't use it heaps, but I use it enough. And it still seals relatively tight. It's only got a little bit of stuff at the top. I think part of it comes from impatience for some people as well. Not saying that everyone's impatient, but, and maybe impatient is the wrong word. Maybe it's just sort of a lack of being aware sometimes that when you open it, you can't just open it straight backwards. It is going to leak a little bit of that paint back. And you do have to shake them first. I totally get that. So you kind of need to wait for it to drip down, open it carefully, make sure it doesn't glob at the back. As soon as it globs at the back and then it falls in behind, and you generally can't see it back there, right behind where the hinge is, once it starts falling in there and bunching up, that's when you start getting problems. Because then next time, the bunch gets thicker and thicker and then it starts drying out. except for white. Is it Corax white? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Let's have a look. Let's check. Ceramite white. Ceramite white, not a fan. Chalky as hell. I have 3 ball bearings in that ceramite white, and I thin it out with airbrush thinners, and it still goes dry. It's still chalky. The lid is a tight fit. Yeah, it's just not a great paint. Which is a shame because it's a nice clean white, you know. And I know a lot of people have had a problem with ceramite white. That's why I really like the dead white from Vallejo. And I think that's in part because it's in a dropper bottle, and dropper bottles, I don't know, seem to seal up a little bit better. Harder to dry it out. This is very light dry brushing that I've done here. It's probably not really an effect that you can see from the camera, but it just sort of gives a really, really fine hint of a lighter brown, of a sort of sun bleaching, especially where he might have like rubbed his hands over the axe again and again as he's swinging it, hitting people in the head. Probably thicken it up on the ends here, maybe. Yeah, let's do a little bit of a build up because he's bound to punch people in the face with this. Given the size of the heads, he's enveloped people's faces with that. That has split from too much face punching. Cool. One last little bit. Just gonna get up in there on that shield. Yeah, cool. There's that blue. Oh, it's so close. It's so close to being ready. I think once I put this last bit of wash on, we might call it a night. And I will jump back onto him probably tomorrow night. His feet came up alright, probably a little bit thick there. It's a little bit distressing. Like I said, I haven't done it on anything this big before. But it is important to show people, no matter how good you are, and I am by no means the best, far from it, but no matter how many times you've done something, you can still screw it up, and it's okay to screw up, because then you learn how to fix things. And sometimes learning how to fix things teaches you more about, you know, how to do it right in the first place. So I'm gonna chuck that last little bit of wash on his chest, and then tonight, while I'm chilling out in front of the TV, I'm going to have a good think about how to neaten up his feet. Oh, that's my wash brush. Oh well. Sorry, that's my dry brush. Oh well. It can be a wash brush for the moment. It does soak up the wash though. Bugger. A bit more. There we go. Yeah, if you got any ideas, throw them in the comments down below. Now, that is only just dry, so to avoid breaking that sort of surface tension, because it might still be a little bit wet underneath, I'm not dragging it as much. I'm more pulsing it, pressing and giving it a little pulse to dump the paint on the wash on top of it. All right, I think that's our skin. For the moment. I'll have to have a bit of a think about that. I might have to dry brush this entire thing. I might have to wash over the feet and actually dry brush to get a nice even fade. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to dry brush a steel grey over all his skin to get a nice even fade from the darker blue up to the steel grey, and do quite a heavy dry brush, and then do a really light one of glacier blue, because trying to highlight with the brush itself has just looked a bit ugly. It's fine on the toes, those single raised areas, but these big flat spots, no, I'm not happy with it at all. It's not how I want to leave it. I foresee a lot of dry brushing in my future. Alright guys, well thank you very much. If you want to see me fix his feet and keep working on the skin in the next video, I know that this one's been sort of over an hour probably, and all I've done is his skin, but I hope that you guys have sort of chilled out, maybe done some hobby of your own, maybe you're listening while you're doing other things. Yeah, and like I said before, if you enjoy the channel, please give it a like, please give it a subscribe. I'd love to get enough subscriptions up to be able to do a live stream, because sitting here chatting to you guys would mean the world to me. It'd be so much fun, and I'd love to talk about hobby and painting and hear about new techniques, new games as well. I should probably talk more about games that I enjoy. I'll do that in the next video maybe. Board games, war games, card games, and you can learn a little bit more about me. Thank you very much everyone. Hope you had a good time, and we'll catch you in the next video.